Okay, let me take it now back to Madawi. The point that your opponent made earlier in his opening statement, challenging your claim that the U.S. relationship with Saudi Arabia is basically unconditional. They point out examples of times when Saudi Arabia has been very unhappy with the positions the United States has taken, that they feel that they are checked and challenged, and there's nothing unconditional about it. Would you like to take that, Mark Lagan, or Madawi, whichever? Madawi, you've been wanting to go for this, so go ahead.
You know, the example that comes to my mind is Yemen. Saudi Arabia, for the last 2 years almost, had launched airstrikes on Yemen under different guises and argued that they are doing this in order to restore the Yemeni regime in Yemen. But what had happened was all this is happening with the approval of the U.S. So the U.S. is helping Saudi Arabia to fight a war with its rival in the Middle East, using American weapons that it purchased from the U.S. and destroy a country on its southern border. So I don't understand how we could describe this relationship in other terms apart from being unconditional. The U.S. is supporting Saudi Arabia in destroying an Arab country. It supported Saudi Arabia in moving its troops to Bahrain, where a pro-democracy movement was actually gathering momentum. And the interesting thing is that the U.S., the United States Navy is stationed in this small island. Saudi Arabia moved its troops to support a regime that oppresses its own people.
Okay.
Do you want me to talk about Syria? Let me talk about Syria.
I was wondering if I could ask Madawi a question.
Sure, go ahead, Greg.
Madawi, do you think that Saudi Arabia would not be involved in bombing Yemen if the United States had a more distant relationship from Saudi Arabia?
Well, do you think that directing the plane, giving them ground intelligence to direct their plane, and unfortunately the plane hit a mosque and killed hundreds of people.
Madawi, what about his question? What about his question, though? Yeah. The question, would Saudi Arabia be doing this if it didn't have U.S. backing?
Well, if it didn't have American weapons, it wouldn't have done it. It wouldn't have the capabilities.
You don't think the Saudis would have bought weapons from other people? I mean, we're talking about levels of...
This is an argument I heard in Britain. Every time you tell the British, don't sell Saudi Arabia arms that kill people in Yemen, they say, well, if we don't, the French would. And now, Greg, you're telling me that, oh, if we didn't sell the Saudis the arms that they need to bomb Yemen, then maybe China or Russia would. But two wrongs don't make it right. Two wrongs don't make it right.
Maybe it's because that argument's right that you heard it in Britain.
Jim Jeffrey. Jim Jeffrey.
Leaving aside why the Saudis are in Yemen and the level of our support, because I would say under the Obama administration, I won't say I know, it was cut back to an absolute minimum. But leaving that aside, can friends tell us how many significant countries other than total pariahs have had weapons cut off by the international community in the last 30, 40 years? I can't think of too many. So I don't think that the argument that if the Americans didn't give them, nobody would give them weapons.
Mark Lagan.
Well, we would say it is fair to call this an unconditional relationship. The United States regularly, under law passed by Congress, finds Saudi Arabia to be in the cellar in terms of religious persecution, human trafficking. It doesn't use the sanctions that the United States can because it waives it. It is a false dichotomy to say we have to have the relationship as it has been for decades or it's a divorce. The burden of proof is on us to say what a conditional relationship would be. I'll tell you, we should tie our arms sales to asking specific things of the Saudis. For instance, audit all those finances of your charities and your private organizations and individuals that have been funding education around the world that has been creating radical extremists. And secondly, if you say that you need to jack up your economy and not rely so much on oil, you need women in that economy. You need to change your male guardianship laws, or else you're going to continue to have gender apartheid. Ask for those things and tie arms sales to them. That's a conditional relationship.
Let me